Jamil?
Yeah, this is my home office.
You don't have to worry. Dude, we're all about authenticity. You don't have to worry about moving anything. Listen, I got underwear on right now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Shut Up and Do It podcast. I'm your host, Nick Alrud, principal with the AA Real Estate Group and coach with REI Accelerated and REI Ignition. And today we have a very special guest for you. We have Jamil Damji is on. A lot of you have heard of him already. He was the founder of KeyGlee, your one-stop wholesale disposition shop, which is super, super cool. We have a bunch of our students are using that, and we have a bunch of people, I know your listeners are using that right now. We also, he's also the creator. He was a big wholesaler. Last year, just so you guys know what this guy is up to, he did 1,000 deals in 2019. And then last year he did 700, even with COVID, still going strong. He is a husband and a father to two awesome daughters. And we're going to hear a little bit about his story. He's also got a coaching and mentoring division called Astroflipping, which a lot of you already know about too. So first of all, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nick. I'm happy to be here. I appreciate the invitation, man. This is super fun.
Your office is way cooler than mine because we have still downsized, and I'm reporting from Studio B, the home bedroom. And you look like you've got an awesome one with some art behind you. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, really. I'm actually my home office. It's a part-time office. Half of it's the office. The other half is my wife's gaming room. So it's cool because of her. But I'm building a studio in my backyard right now. So while that's happening, I'm in here with her. It's fun.
Sweet, brother. Hey, it's all good to be close.
Yeah.
We want to hear your story, man. Before real estate too, go back and let us know how you got to where you are.
Man, so oddly enough, I wasn't supposed to be an entrepreneur. I'm East Indian, but by descent, heritage, right? And my culture, my family, and it's very typical for parents to be pushing their kids towards being a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, because prestige and status, that coupled with the fact that my parents grew up with nothing, and in their eyes, to have a successful life, you needed to be a doctor, right? And so I actually studied my butt off and took the MCAT exam. I got a bachelor's of science in physiology. And right before going into medical school, I had a mental breakdown. I just couldn't do it. I had to go back to my mom and dad and say, I've got zero interest in the medical field. I can't even look at blood. I don't know why I've spent the last 4.5 years in this undergrad program, and I did really well. I mean, my grades were fantastic, and they were heartbroken. They were heartbroken because I really had a good shot, and the fact is I was only there for the money. I only wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to have money. I didn't want to be a doctor because I have this burning desire to save people at a hospital. I love people, but I'm not really interested in helping when they're sick. Sorry, right? So doctor wasn't for me, and I applaud all the folks that are in the medical profession. That's amazing, but it just wasn't for me. And so I let my parents down at that time, because I told them I wanted to do something different, and entrepreneurship was what it was. And so I left university, and oddly enough, the girl I was dating at the time told me about her friend who was an entrepreneur, and they were failing at this company. And what they were doing was new media, right? So this company was getting a hold of business owners, trying to convince them that the Yellow Pages was a thing of the past and everyone should go online. Now, this is 2002 when the internet wasn't really as developed as it is now, and people really needed to be sold on the power of the World Wide Web.
Yellow Pages is where it's at. I'm going to be in print forever. Yes.
Forever. People would spend $30,000, $40,000 a year on these full page ads in the Yellow Pages, but that's where their business would come from, right? The phone would ring from the Yellow Pages. And funny enough, when I entered this company, that's how I did my lead generation. I actually would get the Yellow Pages and I'd call down industry by industry. I'd start at A all the way to the end of to Z. And I would just call business owners and ask them if they'd be interested in going online. And we were successful in sales. The problem was we were selling websites for $600, and every time I'd make a sale, I'd actually lose $100 because it cost us $700 to build one of those websites. So it wasn't a very profitable company, to say the least. But
we'll make it up in volume, they say.
Yeah, right. And you don't understand cash flow and things like that when you're first starting out. And I really didn't know that it was going to be what it was. But the beauty of that is it positioned me next to my business partner, whose father was a real estate developer. And what he was doing is he was finding these old houses in Calgary, Alberta. This is where I started my real estate journey. And he would bulldoze them and build these duplexes. And they were having a conversation where they had just closed out on a duplex sale, and they made $160,000. Now, talking to a guy who loses $100 every time he's making a sale, when I overheard that, I was really interested. And so I interjected myself into their conversation. I asked how I could get involved, and really, they weren't interested in that. They told me right away, Jamil, you don't have any money, you have no experience, you don't have a license, like you can't, there's nothing you can do. But then I was like, look, I heard your dad saying that he needs more of these building lots, maybe I can help there. And they said, look, if you can find a house, one of these houses that's on a 50-foot by 120-foot lot that has an R2 zoning in the inner city, we'll buy it. I mean, we that's what we need. And so the next day, oddly enough, I'm walking my dog, and I walked by a for rent that I had actually tried to rent a few months prior, but it was $200 out of my budget. Like, that's where I was in life, right? $200 meant I couldn't live in this house. I had to live over here, right? But the place was still for rent. It had been available for 3 months. And so I thought maybe this person would be interested in selling. So I called, and I just asked, would you be interested in selling your house instead of renting it? And she said, if the price is right. And I asked what that price was, and her number was $350,000. So I go back to the office. I talked to my business partner, and I asked what his dad would pay for one of these lots. And the answer is $400,000. So now I have a $50,000 problem, right? I can buy a house for $350,000. I can sell it for $400,000, and I have no idea how to do that. I have no money. So I do what I know how to do. I get into the phone book and I start calling lawyers. I go to L and I start calling down lawyers, because that's how property is conveyed in Calgary, Alberta, is through real estate attorneys. And I get all the way to the letter S, because the lawyer who answered the phone, he was so fresh out of law school, he didn't have a secretary fielding his calls for him, and he picked it up. His name was David Steed. David Steed answered the phone, and I went right into it. I told him what my situation was, and he explained to me that there was this magical way of doing business where I could buy the property, and he said, make sure that you put your name and or assignee, and then you actually can sell with a second contract to another person, and we can flow the funds from the B to C contract to fund your A to B contract, and I'll just give you the money in the middle. And I was amazed. I thought I invented the business model at the time, because I had never heard of an educator. The internet was brand new, so the guru world wasn't really there. Carlton Sheets was doing his stuff, but I'm in Canada, so I'm not even getting those advertisements. So I'm truly feeling like I've invented ice cream, right? And I went ham after that. I actually completed that transaction. My first deal netted me around $48,000. It was magical. And I never looked back. I continued going, stacking money, got to a point where I had made millions of dollars. And around 2000 and end of 2006, I get really adventurous, and I convinced my parents to that we want to be developers instead of doing what this buying and selling. There wasn't even a name for it. Wholesaling didn't exist as a term. So I'm buying and selling real estate, but I want to play with the big boys now. I want to get into real estate development. And I convinced my parents that we should buy these apartment buildings, these 4 apartment buildings, and convert them into condos. And so we do that. We purchase these 4 buildings. I actually get my mom and dad to co-sign on those loans. And that takes us to 2008. And 2008 hits, the credit crunch happens, and we're upside down on all of the projects. We lost all our money. In fact, that time leading up to it, I'd amassed $12 million in cash. And all of that money had been plopped down in down payments and debt service and construction on these projects. But I was upside down on all of them. And the bank came and took everything. And not only did we lose all of that money, we lost all of the equity, but they also came and took my house, my parents' house. And so all of us were homeless. And around 2008, it was just my father, my mother, myself, my sister, her husband, our 150-pound dog, my niece, our cat in a 2-bedroom, one bath apartment. So the fall was terrible. You know, we really felt it. It was an incredibly hard time for our family to get through. But
let me go back to before we start to come out of that, Jamil. This is where everyone needs to relate, right? Everyone here has gone through the shit, or as we call it, a reset button, and yours particularly to the tune of $12 million. So you were a wholesaler, buying and selling. You talked to you finally, like 2005, or it was 2005, right? Or 2006?
Yeah, 2002 is when I got started, but 2006 is when I moved into development, right?
Yep. You're like, we're gonna develop some sexy stuff right here, and we're gonna be making a whole bunch of money. And you convinced now, did your mom and dad? You already said they didn't really support you in what you were doing anyway, and now that but you did convince them to invest and co-sign for these projects with you.
Well, they had credit, right? My parents had fantastic credit, and they also had an asset, their home. And so the bank wanted an additional party to sign on the construction loan. So my parents actually had to co-sign. It was me on the loan, but my parents co-signed with me.
How was that conversation with them? Like, I'm just curious because they didn't necessarily approve of what you were doing because you weren't a lawyer or a doctor.
Well, you know, it's funny how money changes the conversation, right? So I was super successful then, right? So you got to think if you know, your son who was supposed to be a doctor is now making what a doctor makes in a year, in a month.
There it is.
Sometimes in a day, right? They were listening to me at that point, right? And so if I had said to my mom and dad, do this, they were going to do that. And that, you know, it was awesome. It was awesome of them to support me and to love me and to do that. But it was the worst mistake they could have ever made was following me and listening to me at the time, because again, it was really difficult. It was difficult for them to lose their home.
How was that next? I mean, you've had many conversations with them, but how was that ultimate conversation you had with them when you realized this wasn't going to work and you had to sit them down and have that conversation?
You know, they've been watching it, so the writing was on the wall for a while. It wasn't like there was this day when I came home and said, we've lost everything. You know, the financial meltdown happened in stages, and so we were all watching it like a slow motion car wreck. The problem was for us is, you know, in Calgary, Alberta, it's directly connected to the oil and gas industry, very much like Texas would be here. Alberta is basically the Texas of Canada. And so we thought we were insulated from the financial meltdown because energy was still roaring. But because the credit markets had definitely shifted, the construction loans that we were in, and this is where banking really became the reason why we went broke rather than the actual market. What happened was the bank had given us construction loans based off of pre-sales that we had in each of these projects. But because they changed their lending criteria and those loans hadn't funded yet, the bank decided, even though they had given us construction loans based off those pre-sales, they wanted to re-qualify all of those buyers because their credit and their loan criteria had changed. And when they went to go re-qualify all those buyers, they now didn't qualify again. And because those buyers didn't qualify again and the construction loan was based off of those pre-sales, the bank called the loans.
Yeah. Got themselves into a problem and they had to fix it by screwing everybody else.
And I mean, honestly, today I have no mortgages. I don't even play with leverage, and it's because I've got PTSD. I don't trust banks. I don't trust them because I understand that they write the rules, right? And they can change the rules like that. So if at any point you get into any trouble, they can just come and take all your stuff away. It's incredible.
That's it. Wow. So you felt that, and I want to know, so what slowly happened for you after you felt that?
Well, we lose everything, right? And, we're sitting here in a really tough situation, and I wanted nothing to do with real estate anymore. I was so done with the industry altogether. I thought it was just crooked. You know, there was nothing more that I could say other than it was just a BS crooked industry. And it was just because the way that I was treated by the banks, you know, the way that they handled that, and how that all went down, I don't think was even legal. In fact, if that same situation had happened here in the United States, that would have been fraud on the bank's part. But because the rules are different in Canada, they got away with it. And they defrauded us. They defrauded me. They defrauded my family. And that is what it is, right? But anyhow, I decided to lick my wounds. And I decided to lick my wounds by moving to Los Angeles, California to become a professional comedian.
Oh, this was not part of your bio. All right, we have to hear this story, Jamil. Go for it. Here we go.
So that's what I do. I leave Calgary, and I try my hand at comedy. And I did it for about 4 years. From 2008 to 2012, I did the comedy circuits. I was doing open mics, stand up in some of the better clubs out there. I found a niche in sketch comedy, which is really where I cut my teeth and had a good time making videos that were on Funny or Die. Had a great time with it. And all the while, I'm watching what's happening in Phoenix. And the reason I'm looking at Phoenix is because as I'm sitting in Los Angeles and my rent is steadily increasing, Los Angeles is a really expensive place to live. Yet I was looking over at Arizona, and you could buy a $25,000 condo that in the crash in 2010 that was worth $350,000 in 2005, right? So that's how far it dropped. And you could rent that $25,000 condo for $850 a month. So I'm sitting here thinking, well, why don't I just start buying assets in Phoenix and arbitrage my rent here in California? And so I do that. I start buying property in Phoenix and paying for my lifestyle in LA. But what ended up happening is the property manager that we had hired, he decided to start pocketing our rents. And he would say, hey, I'm having a hard time filling this place. I'm having a hard time filling this place. And so I just drove. I drove from from LA to Phoenix, and I started knocking on doors. And all the units he told me were vacant were full. And all the tenants inside were paying him cash. And so rather than call the cops, I told him he had half an hour to pack his stuff and get out. And I decided that I needed to take control. So again, I'm looking at the real estate market in Phoenix. I'm writing offers on things. It's short sale time now, right? So if you remember that part of the 2010, 2011, 12, you would write a lot of offers on short sales because banks wouldn't approve everything, right? It was maybe 50-50 that the bank would approve your price. So you're writing more offers than you can actually take down.
Yep.
And what ended up happening was I wrote offers on multiple properties, and two of them that I wasn't expecting to get approved got approved. And I'm looking at them. They're great deals, but I just can't take them down. I'm out of money. So I do what I know what to do, which is I go to Craigslist and I write an ad and I say, I've got these two properties available, and I get a phone call in 15 minutes. And this gentleman says he'll take both of them. And I make $18,000 in a 15-minute conversation. Like, no joke, right? And I'm thinking, what am I doing in LA writing jokes? That's the joke. I got to leave. I got to go. I got to move to Phoenix, and I've got to do something. I got to get back into real estate. This is amazing. I mean, I can't believe the opportunity. And so actually it was my birthday, 12/12/12. I packed a U-Haul and I left Los Angeles and I moved to Phoenix, Arizona. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very, very cool. So now you're in Phoenix and you're crushing it, looking for these little condos. It's funny. I got to share. So we have this in common, right? People already know my story, and we wrote a book, Don't Quit, Stories of Persistence, Courage, and Faith. I was down and out. So I started buying $25,000 houses in Western Pennsylvania, just not sexy Phoenix. And we did the exact same thing. So then it's like, oh, wow. And I can rent that for like $650 a month. Wow, that's awesome.
I know.
And then here we are, though. But we have to feel, it's almost like we wouldn't have been in these positions if we didn't have the lick the wounds conversations, right? If we didn't feel the pain of having to go through something horrible, in your case, $12 million and friends and family credit, right? Like horrible. But now you're in Phoenix and you're buying your own to rent for arbitrage or just for yourself now, and you're wholesaling. So keep going. So take me through it.
Yeah. So now I'm wholesaling, and I have a knack at it, right? I understand how to spot value. I understand replacement cost, and I'm looking at everything I can buy right now is half or a quarter of replacement cost. So it all makes sense to me. So I'm just writing contracts, but there's so much liquidity in the market at that time. There's people that just, they want to buy in cash and they want to flip, and that's what this big frenzy of buying started, right? And I start wholesaling, and it's amazing, and I'm making fantastic money. And in fact, that goes all the way up until 2015. And what ended up happening is actually I was partnering with another individual to help me sell my deals, because I was so good at acquisitions, but I really didn't have a lot of buyer relationships, and I wasn't local. And so, this individual I was working with had a lot of relationships, knew a lot of buyers. He ran a bidding auction service, and so he really had a good understanding of the people that would take these properties down. So there was a good synergy there. The problem is that him and I are on two different playing fields when it comes to our stages in life. This guy wanted to spend his time on a yacht in the Bahamas. Meanwhile, I'm about to get married, and I'm building a new family, and so I really need money, right? I want to go, and he wants to hang out. And so I'd be calling him, and the phone would go to voicemail, and he was out on a boat. So one day I'm at a sandwich packing party, and what I mean by that is I get invited to pack sandwiches for homeless people. So this friend of mine said, "Hey man, we're really blessed in life. I want our kids to see, what it looks like to give back. I want to make 1,000 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and I want to go out to the parks where the homeless people hang out the next day and hand them out. You want to bring your family over to my house, and we can do it all together." And I was like, "Awesome, yeah, of course. I'd love for my daughters to see that, and I bring my wife, and we can all hang out and do that." So at that sandwich packing party are these two young kids, Josiah and Hunter, and they come up to me and say, "Hey, we've heard of you. You're that guy that's doing all those deals. How do you do it?" And I'm like, I just get out there, have lots of conversations. I talk to people. I've got a great funnel of opportunity. And they explain to me that they're working on building these amazing buyers lists, but they just need some inventory to prove themselves with, right? And they ask, would you let us sell some of your deals? And my answer immediately was no. I've already got a situation where I work with someone, and it works. But a few weeks later, the guy's back in the Bahamas again, and he doesn't answer my call. And so I decide to give the young cats a try. And it was a life-changing thing, because I give them a property, and 30 minutes later, the deal was sold. And then I give them another one, and sold. And then another one, and sold. And we do this loosely for a year. A year passes, and then I go to the individual that was hanging out in the Bahamas, and I tell him, I have this idea, I have this vision to build a nationwide dispositions company, a company that will help wholesalers move their product at top dollar. And I asked if he'd be interested in doing it with me, and he wasn't. He said, it's just outside of my range, and I'm really happy where I am right now, and I want to continue living on the boat doing that. So I go to the two young guys, and I say, look, this is my idea. I want to be across the country. I want to do a deal in every major city across the United States, and maybe you guys can be the ones to help me do it. And they're both all over it. They love the idea. We've been doing business for loosely a year at this point, and so it is. That's how KeyGlee was born. And the four of us, my sister, myself, Josiah, and Hunter, formed KeyGlee. And from 2016 till now, I mean, our first month we did 3 transactions. As you had mentioned, in 2019 we did over 1,000. 2020, the pandemic hit, so we definitely had some depression in volume for that 3 months. But we did over 700 transactions last year. We're now franchised across the United States. We've actually got 60 operating markets, with another 100 slated to be opened in the next little while. So it's been a rapid expansion, and it's amazing, man. It's one of the most gratifying situations I've ever been in my life.
That's fantastic. So are you guys still, are you off acquisitions totally then? You're just you're just disposing?
So we have to do acquisitions in order to dispose, right? So there is definitely still some work that's required on the acquisition side. It's just different than the acquisitions that maybe the people that are your normal listeners know of. Typically acquisitions is direct to seller, but we're a business to business wholesaler. So we're working with other wholesalers to move deals. And oftentimes wholesaler will get significantly more money for their deal working with us than using their own buyer.
Gotcha. Brilliant. That's fantastic. If we just thinking of all the needs we would have had for that too as well. If we go back to when you were doing it before you had the team, right? I want to take you back there too to say, what was your day like? So you were hustling on the phone, knocking on doors, like doing deals, and then you were selling at the same time or trying to sell. You had that gentleman. I guess, did you ever dispose of your own, or did you already have that guy always?
No, so I never really, I had a few pocket buyers, excuse me. I had a few pocket buyers, but you know what happens with pocket buyers? One guy gets a divorce. One guy gets, has too many projects on his table, and you're out of buyers, and it's so funny because new wholesalers, they'll work with, 4 or 5 guys, and they're like, oh, I don't need to have more buyers. I've already got my guys. But you wait until the earth tilts a quarter degree and everything changes in these people's lives, and you've got to have new buyers, right? And so
or you wait until 2010 and everyone's funds dry up with the capital market freeze. You always need new people, 100%.
Right. It's very true.
Yeah, very, very cool. When you were doing the acquisitions, again, to go back in your life, like a lot of people are like, as I'm a new wholesaler, I'm just starting out. How do I structure my day? Like, how did you structure your day on what you were doing?
Great question. I spent about 6 hours a day on the phone with real estate agents. Realtors. I look at it like this, right? Agents have been my number one resource for getting deals, and even now for stuff that I'm direct on, it's coming from agent referrals. If you think about it in this format, if I want to eat shrimp for dinner today, right? Would it make sense for me to go rent a boat, go into the sea, get a net, and go catch some shrimp, or do I go to the shrimp docks? Walk up to the boats that are unloading shrimp and buy some, right? That's what I think cold calling and texting is. I think cold calling and texting is going out into the sea and trying to fish and, trying to catch a few shrimp. When I talk to agents, they're spending their entire day fishing for shrimp, right? So when they come to the docks, they've got houses for me. And I only buy the stuff that they have nightmares about listing. The houses that I buy aren't financeable. Right? The houses I buy are terrible. They need all kinds of work done to them before they'll become a retail product. Those agents don't even want that listing, right? So when I'm able to come in and provide a cash solution for them, I'm the guy they go to. So that's what I did. The first, I'd say 3 years of it was 6 hours to 8 hours a day on the phone with real estate agents, building relationships, being the guy that they brought the deal to first.
I love it. And there's so much to be said for that shrimp analogy you just mentioned too. The only thing that I would suggest or just pose to you, like, what if the same thing happens? If you're not controlling the deal flow, what if all those agents all of a sudden dry up, or one of them goes to luxury and one of them goes to I have 50,000 realtors that I get to fish from. There you go.
There's 50,000 agents in Arizona. Now my team, we've scaled it and turned it into technology, how we communicate with them. So it's not me cold calling them anymore. Now it's, a much more sophisticated outreach process, but it's still the same.
Brilliant. With KeyGlee and what you have going on now, do you have very rough margins you're able to disclose for your franchise buyers?
Yeah. So, our average deal is around $10,000. That's our average profit margin. So we're not taking big bites. We're making about 10 grand a deal, but you do that 60, 70, 80 times a month and it's pretty good. Absolutely.
That's it. And I'm assuming, have you found, now that you've gone to different markets too, and we're just starting, we're in like our own, this is just speaking for ourselves. We're in now 14 markets, but we're seeing a dramatic difference in the price points and therefore our profit margins too. Sure. Was that tough for you when you were growing? Like, what were your biggest challenges when you were scaling KeyGlee?
I think there was a lot of challenges. Hiring is definitely a thing. Company culture is definitely something to pay attention to. You get the wrong people in your company and it can derail you. We didn't do a significant amount of market research before we entered into new markets. And so we made a lot of mistakes in the early days, just trying to figure ourselves out and know what to do.
What's one of those mistakes? Do you mind sharing? I love that.
Not letting go people fast enough. You know, when you have negativity or you have like we have we call it's KeyGlee culture built on a foundation of love, right? And that's it's a real thing. I really believe there's two things that are true in the world. There's love and fear, and you can decide to live in one of the two worlds, right? I like to live in the world of love, where we're abundant, where we care, where we share with people, where we collaborate. We don't compete. It's not you don't stab your brother in the back to get a deal. Like, you help. You know, you work from that abundant place, and you're blessed for it. And I've been proven right over and over and over again for being down that path. But when you have a negative person in the midst, they stand out like a sore thumb. And because we want to always be loving, because we always want to, think that these people can change. This guy, the attitude can be different. We can nurture them. We can grow them. But oftentimes people are people, man. And if you got a negative Nancy in your midst, and somebody who's just bad for the culture, bad for teamwork, just putting people down, negative all the time, always got something snarky to say, cut that guy out or cut that lady out. That's a cancer in your company. And what we didn't do is, because we were always trying to be so loving, we didn't cut cancer out fast enough. And while we were growing, some of those cancer cells spread. So when you do end up doing the surgery, you end up cutting out a little bit more than what you had anticipated.
That was a brilliant way to put it, man. That was a brilliant and great lesson for everybody to hear that. Cutting out, even if it's hard, right? Even if it's a top A player, it's culture over production, right? Always. Culture over everything.
Everything. And one of the people that we had to cut out was one of my best friends. This is an individual that moved from Los Angeles to come take a job, right? But he was so negative. He was so terrible to everybody in the office that, ultimately, and the funny thing is when he finally was let go, we then came to find out that he was stealing from the company, and there was all these things going on in the background. Meanwhile, I'm romanticizing what this guy was like, right? In my mind, he's a good guy. You guys just don't know him, and I'm protecting him, right? I'm protecting him from my partners. I'm protecting him from other people because this guy's my friend. But I know he's negative. I know he's not good for the culture. I know that he's not a fit. Yet I still let him stay, and it created a problem, man. It was definitely not. It was a learning lesson for me that in times like that, you've got to really do what's best for everybody. And if you find somebody there doesn't fit in with the values of your operation, get rid of them. It doesn't matter who it is, even if it's your brother. Out. Sorry, we can be brothers. See you on Thanksgiving, but you're not working here.
That's it. Separating out, and especially with the love foundation of love that you've got. You're right, because almost your identity is built in wanting to coach, wanting to love, giving everybody second and third and fourth chances. But at the same time, it's like there's still a business here. Like, we still need to perform at a good level, right? That's hard. That's hard. I appreciate you sharing that. That's a big deal.
Of course.
What does your business look like today, Jamil? So everything.
It's amazing, man. As I said, we're franchised, so we're now doing deals all over the country. Of course, I'm still in the front lines. I still do deals with my team. I'm a deal junkie, so I love it, right? I want to do deals. I want to do deals. That's just what I am. But I've now taken on the role of building the brand, and so today, my days really consist of podcasting and doing internet shows and really trying to bring more of the general public into the understanding of what it means to be a real estate investor and how to evaluate property properly and what it means to find a deal and what is a deal versus what's not a deal. And so I'm spending a lot of time with my coaching clients and as well as doing deals. So it's fantastic, man. I'm super busy these days and I love every minute of it.
That's fantastic. We've got some quick questions that a lot of our listeners know, but you don't. So we want to just get into. I want to ask you a couple of quick ones that we find are interesting to know from high-level people. What was your favorite purchase in the last year that was under $100?
My favorite purchase in the last year that was under $100. Damn. Probably my meditation app.
Which one is it?
I use Insight Timer.
Oh, Insight. I don't know that one. Insight.
Fantastic. I use it every day.
That leads perfectly into the second question. What is a routine you follow every single day?
Non-negotiable, bro. I wake up, I exercise, meditate, hang out with my wife. 11 o'clock is when I start my day. Don't call me before 11. I'm not available, right? 11 a.m., I get to the office, I work with my teams, look at whatever deals are there. And then beyond that, I see what the day has in store for me. I might be on a podcast. I might, be doing some YouTube content. I might be in a training with my team. But from 6 a.m. till 11, I'm exercise, meditation, time with the wife. That's it. Every day.
That is fantastic. As a man who's been through a couple divorces, I've finally learned what's valuable.
Right.
And it isn't taking that extra email at 9 a.m. So good for you, man. Fantastic.
Thank you.
What is your passion project right now? Like the best thing that fires you up?
I'm not allowed to say a lot about it, but my friend and I don't know if you're familiar with Pace Morby, but Pace Morby and I have just been signed to a television show deal. So I'm really excited about that. I can't say a lot more. I did, and I got in trouble for it. So stay on the lookout. In the next 12 months, you'll be seeing us all over your TV.
Fantastic. I love it. And here's me. I'm bitter because I applied to be on Flipping Boston TV show. And apparently, because I didn't have as much hair and I wasn't as big as the legend Dave Seymour, I failed in comparison to his.
That was a great show, though.
It's a good show. And Dave did a hell of a job, but that's okay. Yeah. I just needed some more hair. That's what I think I needed. So it doesn't matter.
Are you friends with Dave?
I am, yes.
How's life been for him since that show?
I think he's killing it. He's coming on the podcast here shortly. He launched a fund and he's going to be doing his thing. So
really cool.
Yeah, indeed. All right. How can people get a hold of you, Jamil?
You can find me on my YouTube channel. It's just youtube.com/Jamil Damji, JamilDamji. Also, hit me up on my Instagram. It's @JDAMJI. I give away so much content, guys. I'm constantly creating content, giving you my best practices, tips and tricks on how to wholesale. Reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. Would love to connect, help you sell some deals, or help you just understand what you need to do to get into the business.
That is fantastic. Tons and tons of fantastic content today from you, Jamil. And wholesaling too, for a lot of people, right? This is what we consider that bottom rung of the REI ladder. But this is where it takes the most amount of time and the grind and understanding, right? That you're a problem solver first. You know, the money is coming second, you're a problem solver first, but there's not a lot of people that teach it the right way. And Jamil, with the content that you put out there, man, we appreciate everything you're putting out there for everybody. That's good.
Thank you so much, Nick.
Good stuff. Hey, folks, thank you all so much for taking part in another episode of the Shut Up and Do It podcast. We bring as much value as we can by sharing top quality guests and speakers, all who believe in a get it done and shut up and do it manner. Today, huge thank you to Jamil Damji. Sorry, Jamil. I got this. Jamil Damji with Astroflipping and KeyGlee and his own wholesale operations. Are you still you're still Phoenix? Where are you?
Phoenix, Arizona, baby. I ain't leaving.
Phoenix, Arizona. He doesn't understand what it's like up here in the cold Northeast.
I know what it's like. I grew up in Canada, but that's why I'm never leaving this place. It's amazing.
I love it. For those of you listening, please be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons and the little bell, the alarm button, to be notified when we have new podcasts released. We release them every week on Thursdays, and head on over to shutupanddoitrealestate.com for all the episodes. And until next time, thanks so much for listening, and remember to shut up and do it.